Hello, and welcome back to another fun-filled episode of the Hammercast with your host, Alex, the Hebrew Hammer Salkin. Today, I am very happy to be reunited, at least digitally, with Lauren Brooks of OnTheEdgeFitness.com. She is super strong, extremely experienced. We were talking a little bit before the show here, and I won't tell you how many years of experience she has. I will let her tell you that because I feel like that's a monumental thing. She deserves to be able to say that. And we're going to have a really good conversation because, again, we've been talking back and forth, scheming about knowledge bombs that we're going to be dropping into your noggins. So be prepared. Now, before you do that, by the way, I have to mention, if you have not already, you should strongly consider getting my 9-minute kettlebell and bodyweight challenge. I was telling Lauren about this beforehand as well. I'm still excited about it because I get emails all the time from people who are doing it. I got one from a guy named Sam in Australia. I'll have to read the whole thing out on a different podcast, but talking about, how it seemed so easy on paper, and then he did it and it was like a real challenge, but he felt awesome even the next day, and he can do it daily. It's not sapping his energy. His wife is doing it as well. And the best part is that all the movements in there are things that require almost no technique, extremely easy to learn. You don't need some long tutorial for them. And again, you can get that at 9minutechallenge.com, totally on the house. You don't have to shell out any credit card or anything like that. And I think you will enjoy it greatly. So without further ado, Lauren, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you. And Alex, that 9-minute challenge sounds simply amazing. I mean, to make it so simple and have all these people, I mean, there's no excuses. You don't need anything. I mean, that is what it's all about.
Absolutely.
People just make things so complicated these days, and it doesn't have to be complicated.
I heard a great line the other day in an email of an email marketer that I'm whose products I get a lot out of. And he was quoting somebody else, but it was, if you want to impress stupid people, make it complex. If you want to impress smart people, make it simple. And I thought that's perfect. I think some people have a tendency to try to make things too simple, but nevertheless, like, it should be easy enough where people can actually apply it. And I know you've got loads of programs that are very much like this. They're very simple. They're to the point. And I mean, maybe a day or two ago, I was reading through some of the testimonials you have on your website, and it's very clear that whatever you're doing works very, very well. So I want to talk a little bit about your origin story in a minute. But before we do that, I have a surprise for you that I thought this was very funny. This is a picture of us going way back. You might remember a little bit, but I just have to pull this up because it's
okay. I like surprises.
Yes, well, the people
I like to be embarrassed.
No, you won't be embarrassed. Believe me.
Yeah.
But the people on YouTube are the only people who are going to be able to see this. So if you're listening to this on like iTunes or whatever, you're going to have to go to
check it out.
All right, check this out. This was from the Marketing Mastermind Intensive.
Whoa, that
9
was
years ago.
almost 9 years ago. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Wow.
Yes.
And look at you.
I know, my hair very clearly attracted all the ladies because there are 2 of them and only 1 of me in this photo.
There you go. And that was so much fun.
What I realized too is, like, you and Katie must have coordinated this. For those who are listening on their podcasting platform of choice, they're both wearing all black. They look like Bond girls, like going on like a secret mission, and they've got these big cool sunglasses on.
Goodness. Things were different back then. Let me tell you.
They were very different, and that includes my hair too, which is all, again, very clearly the chick magnet that it appears to be. So
I love it. Everyone needs to go on YouTube and see that picture just for your hair.
Yes,
that's awesome.
I'm tempted to share it, like, just on Facebook again, because I feel like people need to see, what things used to be like in simpler times.
People need to see it. People would so appreciate it.
Yes, they will. That wasn't
so appreciate it.
And that wasn't even the goofiest that it got. I'll have to show you after the podcast. I'll show you another one. Well, I think I didn't trim it for like at least until like November of that year, and that was taken in June of 2012. So it got. What made you
want to grow it out? Was it just like something inside you? I was like, let's just see how big it can get.
Back when I was in high school, I had like shoulder length hair. But what's interesting is my hair back then was like wavy. So it had this kind of cool like look to it. And then for whatever reason, I decided, I'm gonna try to grow it out again. And I think because my diet had changed so much, like I was eating much more nutrient dense foods, particularly a lot of fats, like my hair just was like curly beyond belief. And so it, like when I grew it out, it didn't grow down. It really did grow out. It
Yeah.
just got like
Yeah.
huge and poofy. So,
That's
but
so
that was,
cool.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, the hair does supposedly change every 7 years, just depending on age and hormones. So,
that's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. So I don't know if you try to grow it out now because it doesn't look curly anymore, but it is straight. I mean, it's short. It just doesn't
Yeah.
look curly.
No, you know
I
what?
don't know. Yeah.
That is very interesting. I was not aware. I mean, it makes sense because I heard that the majority of our cells in our body will have died and regenerated over the course of 7 years. So I
7 years.
yeah,
Oh,
there's got to be a
100%. I have. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, no. I used to have curls like yours, but super long. And anyway, as you can see, it's not like that anymore, but that's probably
yes,
more than just years and age,
of course. That
products
was,
and whatnot.
of
Yeah,
course, back in the good old days.
back in the good old days. I
Now
loved
again,
it though. I miss it.
of course, yeah. No, people. That's funny because for me, like when I had really curly hair, I used to get compliments, even when it was just really wavy, but I used to get compliments all the time. And from women. Again, I'm telling you, there is something about my
Chick
hair that just,
magnet.
yeah, it just attracted women. I would hear things like, I wish my hair would do that like naturally, I wouldn't hear, here's my phone number, but they would definitely say things, about the quality of my hair. So I was about halfway there. That's the
There you
important thing.
go. Hey,
Now,
conversation starters.
exactly.
Yeah.
Had I known how to parlay that into such a conversation, it might have been a different story. But those were the good old days. And speaking of which, you have been doing this for quite a long time. You've been training and transforming people for just ages. And I'm curious because I'm always curious about people's origin stories. Like
Yeah.
people who've heard my podcast before, they know I was like a total dweeb, and I didn't completely change, but I did get
You
stronger.
are strong. Are you
Yes.
kidding me? I've seen you.
That is true. So that's the thing. It's like, again, I still have the visage of a very unassuming type of character, but I added strength to it, and that's the important thing. So you can still be
That's
yourself and be stronger.
100%. Yeah.
So I'm
No, my
curious.
origins.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
want
No,
to hear
my
yours.
story
What like were
is
you?
might be similar to yours actually. So let's see, where do I start? I definitely was not. I was a very insecure kid. I ended up moving to Texas at 11, and my father lived in LA, so that was a very hard separation. This is before Facebook and cell phones, and when people just wrote letters, those handwritten things that you put in the mailbox, when we're like, oh, it's too expensive to call, so that kind of stuff. So it was a very tough move, and especially with the divorce and everything. And so that really kind of, I was very insecure kid, and I wasn't very strong. I was actually pretty weak. I was much shorter and skinnier than all the kids around me. So I don't and I was probably picked last when, those days where you picked kids, and I was, maybe second to last. I was always praying. I just didn't show up. I just showed up kind of passive and hunched over and shy. And that kind of went on for a few years. And I was kind of a sad kid a lot, to be honest with you, until I got into my sophomore year. I discovered surfing, and that was in Texas. I actually finally got decent at something, you know what I mean? I didn't have a lot of motivation and a lot of determination at the time, because I think I was just so lost. I got on a plane 8 times a year by myself with my little sister, took care of her, to visit my father. That was kind of in the contract. So here's a kid. So I couldn't really create connections where I went, and I didn't really ever feel rooted where I went. So I was just kind of lost all over the place and kind of not feeling good about myself. But when I discovered surfing, that was sort of when things began to change for me. I started feeling really good about myself because I was getting good at something for the first time in my whole life. And I was like, you know what? I bet you I'd be better if I went to the gym and maybe started learning how to train. And this is back in the day where you'd go in the gym and very conventional style where you're just getting on you're doing leg extensions and, going up the step mill, which people still do these days, and it's totally fine. But yeah, so I started really, at 16 years old, driving myself to the gym and just kind of really learning, asking questions, even though I was very shy. I was just so interested. How do I get bigger? How do I do this? How do I do this? And I just really fell in love because I was the first person I wanted to transform was myself. I was sick of feeling scrawny and where, I got picked on, bullied, and I wanted something behind me. And so I began just doing some weightlifting during my high school years, just so I could just feel a little bit more confident about myself. And it really began to help. It started showing, and I was like, wow, I can do this myself. And I was getting faster at surfing, just better. And anyways, to make a long story short, I was 17 when I graduated high school in Texas. So I actually moved across country over to California at the age of 17 and started college because my birthday's in late summer. And then I turned 18 during college, and I came out here to surf. I don't surf anymore, but I was a surfing machine, and I actually got pretty good. I started snowboarding, and I was like, wow. And I was still keeping up at the gym. And so I just knew that I needed to do something that had to do with transformation. Because if you can take this little skinny kid that felt horrible, I felt horrible, got picked on, and then I was able to transform myself somewhat. Let's not say, let's not get crazy here. I was still shy, but I had a little bit more confidence because I was able, I got myself a little stronger, and I did it on my own with asking questions and things like that, which I recommend getting a coach. But at the time, I didn't have those kind of finances or support to do that. I probably would have gotten a lot further. So that's sort of kind of just how I got into moving.
All right, we're back. We had a brief pause because there was a Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi like blew up in maybe all of California, maybe just Encinitas. Who knows? Maybe it was just located directly at Lauren's computer. We're not sure. But at any rate, you were talking about, you were still trying to figure out what your degree was going to be. You were discovering the gym and strength training to help you with your surfing. And tell us where that took you.
Yeah, so I finally figured out after, I was a waitress, and I had all these different jobs. I wasn't the kid that just got, here you go, just enjoy college, don't worry about anything. No, I worked the whole time, lived in an apartment. So the whole point is I decided I was going to just study human movement. And so I got my degree in kinesiology. And during the time of getting my degree, I wanted to begin immediately. So I got my first certification was actually ISSA. So that's, back in the day, we're talking
Fred
about
Hatfield's thing, right?
22 years ago. Oh yeah, let's see. I was 19 and I'm 40. Oh, I'm telling you now, 23 years ago, I got my I know, guys. I know. I've been doing this for a little bit. So I got my certification. So I immediately began to train people during my college years. I ended up transferring to San Diego State. So they had quite a beautiful setup, let's put it that way. And so in between classes, I would take on some clients, and I would also make trips to people's homes and things like that. So I was always, but at the time, the training was very conventional, right? It was very kind of more bodybuilding oriented, which was still great. It worked. People got stronger. People got better at their bicep curls and better at their lat pull downs and things like that. And I would talk with them while they're on their cardio machine, very fulfilling, not really. So those were the things. So at the time, we were all sort of taught both in the certifications and in some of the points of the kinesiology program. And the kinesiology program wasn't just based on personal training. There was anatomy and chemistry and biology and taking blood work. And and I did pass out once, by the way, and testing, lactic acid and how to get it out of your system and things like that. So it wasn't really hands-on training, just to be honest with you. Hands-on training was me just doing it. And at the time we were just taught, you do about an hour of body weight training or strength training with maybe we'll do our lats one day and our biceps one day. We'll just spend an hour on that. That's it. And then the next day we'll go to the chest and the triceps, or however you decide to divide up the body parts, and then we'll hit it maybe 5 days later. So in the gym a lot, and then you go for your 30 to 45 to an hour on your cardio machine. So that was the protocol we all felt was the best way to look good, feel good, all that stuff. So that's what we did for many years. It was very time consuming, very easy to fall off the wagon, because not everybody has 2 hours out of their day to dedicate several hours a week to do that. And it got boring, to be honest. That's personally got pretty boring to me. And so then I see this kettlebell. This is after I graduate, still training people, dabbled a little with real estate. Yes. Because to be honest with you, I wasn't making too much money personal training. You don't get into training, at least maybe you didn't back then, to become rich.
No.
You get in to help people and to maybe live paycheck to paycheck.
Yep.
Right. So
Yeah.
I didn't do it for the money. I did it because I loved it, but I also did it so I can survive. But I wanted to survive a little more than that. So I did get my real estate license and do a little both, which was really good, because doing the real estate kind of made me put more of a business hat on, because I had zero business knowledge. Like, getting the clients were the hardest part. Once I got them, it was great. They didn't really go anywhere, but it was figuring out how to actually get clients. Isn't that the hardest part usually? Still, right?
Yeah, still is. Yeah.
Right. So when I graduated, was working here and there, and then finally, and I was actually starting to lose interest in fitness, just because it was just so monotonous, just the same kind of programs. And so when a friend was like, I'm buying this big thing for this guy, it's a kettlebell. And then it arrived, and I tried to pick it up. I was like, what the heck? It said 16 on it. I'm like, that is not 16 pounds. He was like, no, it's all kilos. This is probably in 2003 or 4 at the point. Yeah, 3 or 4. It was a long time ago. And that's when, and at the time I was working for this gym in Oceanside. Okay. It was very conventional. It was run by these 2 ladies. And I would be up at 4 a.m. training people from like 5 to 10, and then taking a gap, and then doing another 4 to 8 at night. I mean, trainers, they could really burn out fast.
Oh yeah.
And it can get very monotonous. And then a lot of trainers, I don't know if you get to see this, but when you're so busy training other people, sometimes we forget to train ourselves, right? Does that ever happen to you? Well, no, probably not.
Not me specifically, but a lot of people I know. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because you train 10 people that day, and you're like, now it's your turn. You're like, you have nothing left. Right. So I just knew this was just, luckily I was in my 20s. I just knew it wasn't going to be a sustainable long-term approach. For the kettlebell, let's go back to the kettlebell, right? That was a game changer. I don't know I didn't even see what you did with it. I just looked at it and was like, that's a game changer.
Yeah.
It was something about it drew me to it. I mean, it looked intimidating. It looked kind of like edgy, and I had never seen anyone with it. Like, not one person. Like, what is this? And so, like I said, I was working at this conventional sort of kind of hoity-toity little gym, and I had to do it their way and all that stuff. And they were like, Lauren, would you like to go to this little trainer workshop and represent all of us and learn? They're doing this little kettlebell 8-hour day just for trainers only. And Franz Schneidman. So he was the one that put that on. I believe this was back in 2004. 2004. I'm trying to get my dates because I don't have them all perfect, but right around there. And so I said, sure, let me go. I mean, that first I see a kettlebell, I was like, I need to figure that one out. Didn't hear about it for a while. Then they asked me to go to a kettlebell workshop. I was like, all right, kettlebells are calling my name. Like, not going to say no. And so I went down there and I humbled the crap out of myself. I'm like learning get ups, can barely get up with like an 8-pound dumbbell, like I had been training my body as a collection of body parts. Like that's what we did. We didn't, well, I don't know about you, but back we didn't train. We did some squats and things like that, but it was about, ooh, let's get the quad, let's get the hamstring, let's do the glutes, let's do the tricep, let's do kick. It was just all about, let's do these and the shoulders and the front. Yeah, it was just, you got to get all of that.
Yeah.
And this was completely different. This was, let's get up, connect your whole body together with a weight over your head, and just that alone just humbled me. Let's balance and pick up 2 bells, single leg deadlifts, half your body weight. I mean, these are the things we learned that day, of course, swings and all that stuff. And at first I was like, oh, this sucks. I hate this. It's so hard. I'm so bad at it. I felt all good coming in as a trainer, been doing conventional training, and I'm like, yeah, I'm coming in. Woo, that went out. My confidence just like went right down to the floor.
Yeah.
But when I was done, even though I felt like they wiped the floor with me, I learned so much. I was like, wow. And it took me actually 3 days to process really what happened. At first I was like, yeah, it's probably not for me. And then second day I was like, yeah, I think it is for me. I started walking taller just one day. I don't know if people ever tell you that, hey, just in the first session, I'm walking taller. Is that possible? I'm like, you know what? It is, because I've had like 300 people tell me that. I don't tell them that, hey, when you walk in, this is how you're going to feel. I let them tell me that. I don't do the power of suggestion thing. So anyways, I get back to the gym and I'm all, after a few days, I'm all excited. They're like, all right, Lauren, show us what you learned. And I was still figuring it out. I started practicing because I was like, oh, I want to really understand this. And I even started taking his classes, which were all the way in La Jolla, and I was in Oceanside. So I'm driving like 45 minutes. I really wanted to like get this. And so, did you hear that? And so when I got back, I started showing them that stuff, and they were like, no, we're not going to do this here. We're absolutely not going to do this. I'm not going to have my clients, they're going to hurt their backs. They're going to do this. This is not what we're going to do. So let me know if you're losing my,
No, I hear you just fine.
Okay, good. Put one down. And so I was so excited about this, and they literally told me I was not allowed to teach it. And I knew that this was going to be an issue. I had to go back to the boring way when I know that this way you can get it done in 1/3 the time and get 10 times better results. Like, hello, like, let's see, you can take the 10-mile way to school, or you can cross there, get there faster, and have extra energy for later. Let me think about this. And I was like, it's safe. Check this out. You have to do it correctly. And they were like, nope, we're not going to do it. And so eventually I had, I had to leave the clients, and I had to just quit. I loved it that much. I literally quit and was just going to be broke for a while, even though nobody knew what kettlebells were, kettleballs, all that stuff.
Kettlebell. Yeah, exactly. You hear it, everything.
You hear it. Yeah. At the time, it was like, what is that? No, we're not doing it. No. It was always, no, what is that? Yeah. And so when I talked to my family about it, I was like, I started researching. I was like, man, I really want to get good at this. Like, this is where I need to be. And the only place that you could really learn, other than, because Franz was pretty new to it,
Mm-hmm.
I give it to him. He was great, but he had just started. And so he was teaching the classes. I would go down there a few times, but I really wanted to like learn from the source. I wanted to like figure out why and how, and just get so into it. And so I was like, so I did some research. I was like, wow, $2,000, like for ISSA at the time, when you're in your 20s, it's like what, $150 certification, and you're good. You don't have to like give part of your, kidney to get committed. But when you see, okay, the 3-day workshop, 3-day workshop, and you got to get on an airplane, fly all the way, get a hotel, you don't know anybody, And half the guys are like these big Navy SEAL dudes and like, juggling, like this is back in the day with Jeff Martone and
Oh yeah.
Steve Maxwell and Steve Cotter. And, I'm going to say all the names.
Yeah, you gotta name drop.
Got to name them. Who else? Mike Mahler. And then Andrea Duquesne, they were like they were the people that were Brett Jones, of course,
Yep.
he's still there. But I'm saying it was like the original. This is how long ago this was.
The OGs.
The OGs. And so and Lisa Schaefer was there that weekend. So when I flew out there, I was, and I told Franz, I was like, hey, I'm going to go. They were like, oh, you're going too? I'm like, yeah. They're like, okay. I inspired them to go too. So they came, they came too. He had already been once.
Mm-hmm.
And so he went back. And so anyway, I was solo there, and it was the most intimidating weekend of my entire life. I never felt weaker. And just getting, the test back then was all doubles. I don't know how it is now. Are you still?
Yeah, I'm in strong first. I think some of them are doubles. It's like the clean and the front squat are doubles. Everything else single for the level one, I think. They may have changed it since the last time I assisted, but yeah, when I went through mine in 2010, it was all doubles. So they had that for quite a long time. Right.
Okay. Because I remember when I was doing some assisting and team leader and whatnot, it ended up going back to singles for a while as far as the double cleans and the double swing. It was double swings, double cleans, double front squats. And for me, I was still this little girl, so I had this tiny, my AirPods. And can you hear me okay?
Oh yeah, just fine.
We're gonna still try to get back to it. And so what happened was, sorry, give me 2 seconds.
Yeah, go for it.
All right, well, as long as you can still hear me.
Absolutely.
Is what matters. I was trying to keep you on AirPod. All right, well, you're gonna hear me from the regular one for a while.
Cool.
Okay, so when I was there, it was the most intimidating thing in my life. I was shaking like a leaf, but I knew I had to do it. I don't know if that's how you felt when you first went.
I was prepped properly because I was told it was going to be insanely hard. And I was not disappointed in that regard because I trained so my coach, Scott Stevens, a guy, I still see him like a couple times a week. I go to his studio and we'll work out there, and we always, catch up and talk about all sorts of things, training, non-training related, but he really helped me out a lot to get prepared. And yeah, he was like, it's going to be insanely hard. So I had no doubt that I was in for basically 3 days of hazing, which some people whined about. I thought it was great. It really separated the wheat from the chaff, and the people who were prepared did just fine. I thought it was all in good fun. I loved the experience. It's not really like that anymore. It's still really hard, but it's much more focused, I think, on teaching. The era you came up in, it was just let's see how hard we can make this on the candidates. So I'm sure you endured some horrors.
Yeah. It was the era where you couldn't really go to the bathroom. And if you did, you had to bring your kettlebell with you. It was the era where you brought your kettlebell everywhere.
Yeah.
You got called out if you just got thrown into the circle. It was frightening. But luckily, everything went smoothly. I did, of course, train for it because I'm not going to show up, pay all that money and invest that much into it and leave home as a failure. Even though that first day he was like, well, 30% of the people pass. I was like, great. I was even more excited.
Yes.
And again, at the time, the snatch test was where it was only, I believe, maybe 56 for my weight category. However, you weren't allowed to set it down and you only got one switch. So I had to, and at the time I was still newer to kettlebell training. And so even just that first snatch, and I remember, so this is, I think, what helps me be the coach I am and kind of get the people I do, because we can talk about it in a minute, but I don't get the elite athletes, although I've trained them. That's not what gravitates to me because I understand what it's like to feel so weak and to be weak. And and what happens, I think, with a lot of coaches is not a lot, but some that are naturally really strong, which is admirable, but they don't always understand what it was like for somebody who wasn't strong, who is not naturally strong, and who had to maybe do, extra steps to get as strong as them.
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, the 8 kilo was very hard at first. And so at the time, there was no 10 kilo. There's none of these half sizes. Okay. There was none of that. When you go, you just go from the 8 to the 12. When you're done with the 12, you go to the 16. There's none of these 14s and little 18s and little like half size, like, here you go. Okay. None of that. You just go from one to the next. You either got it or you don't, and you have to really know if you're ready. And so for me, just finally, when I got like 3 snatches with the 12 kilo, I was like, holy crap, yay. That was like wonderful. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I need to get like 47 more and never put it down. So the pressure was on. And, I had the banging on my wrist at the time because we were still all learning, the proper hip snap, the form. Anyway, there was a lot of technique stuff. The way we taught many years ago is not exactly the same as how we teach now, right? We've all evolved, we've learned, and everything like that. We all have better technique, communication, and skills. Luckily, that's what time does for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so somehow, some way, I did actually pass, which maybe they felt sorry for me, I don't know. But if you looked at the double front squats from then to now, it's pretty hilarious. I mean,
huge difference, I'll bet.
It's just a huge difference. But even the ones that they require now compared to the ones back then.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, there was no, make sure you don't go down so far and lose your lower back curve. Back then, it was ass to grass. I don't care what it looks like, and get your butt back up.
Yeah.
Butt right to the floor and butt back up. Even though half the people had no business putting butt to the floor.
Right.
I had no business at the time. I didn't have the core development. I didn't, you know what I mean? But that's what we were graded on, so we had to do it. So lots have changed, but yeah, that's kind of what sparked and started my kettlebell journey. So much investment, so much effort, so much love. I just felt like this is it, because I really began to get so freaking strong, and I didn't even have to, personally, just myself, and I didn't even have to put those times, the hours in the gym anymore. There was no treadmill, there was none of that anymore. I was like starting to get all like 6-pack. I was like, hey, this is kind of cool. So, and then I was applying that to willing students that were open-minded to it. And they were like, yeah, this is cool. I didn't have that many because it was still so new at the time.
Yeah.
But
I was going to say, it's so funny to hear this too, because it's like, it's making me reminisce about what it was like. I mean, look, California, I feel like we talked about this a little bit beforehand. They jump onto things long before other people do in other parts of the country. In fact, one of my recent podcasts was with a friend of mine, Tristan Phillips, who's in New York. And he said the same thing. He said, he's like, when people started wearing Vibram's 5 fingers in California, like, I was watching what was happening then. So I was wearing that stuff like 3 years before everybody else was, or however long it was. And it's the same thing, but it's weird because I feel like what actually happens is it's like, it goes California, then East Coast, and then eventually it gets to the Midwest. So it's not like straight across, like we're like in the Midwest, we're never like ahead of the trends. And so when I got into kettlebells, this was probably in 2008, and trying to explain to people what it was like it was like the parable of like people who've been like chained to a wall and they could only see the reflections like from the outside world, and then you go into the outside world and you're trying to explain it to them. They just think you're crazy. Like they can't conceptualize it.
Right.
People have no clue what it's for. Like I remember you talked about like you tried to lift up the kettlebell and you're like, what do you do with this? I tried to curl it because of course I had a similar upbringing to you, is all bodybuilding in the early days. But amazingly enough, I same thing for me. I got oriented in the right path. I got some good instruction, and ultimately went on and got certified as well. And again, it sounds like my weekend was not as like hardcore as yours. It was still really tough. Like for a while, everybody was like, "Oh, our weekend was the hardest. We had it the worst." I don't know who had it the worst, but I know that it was like It was rough for everybody. But you brought up something very interesting, because it's talking about the form and the technique, and you talked about how the front squat, the only real thing was like just squat, completely below parallel, even if you have no business doing it. And they've since improved that. But what did you do in the early days with your own training that you look back on now and you think, probably should not have done that? Not just from the certification, but then the training that you did with your clients, with yourself, stuff like that. Like, what are some things, if you could go back, you'd be like, hey, you're going to make more progress if you actually do this instead of that?
Yeah, so starting with my own training, it was it was technique and form as far as the squats go. I mean, that's like the thing that really just stands out. Going too low and trying to go too heavy too soon, because at the time it was driven down in the community of who can be the strongest, how heavy can you go? And you think you're invincible, and you want to see how heavy you can go, doing get-ups, even if you're maybe not ready for it. And so I would say, to be honest with you, with my students, I always took a very cautionary approach. There might have been a few times where, I always encourage to go heavy only if you're ready. And so just because I am so like mama bear to all my students, I never want to see anyone get hurt, and I want to see people in the game for so long, that I might have actually held them back a little bit longer just to make sure that they don't get injured. So, but really it was probably me that might have pushed myself more, just because when you see another coach doing, oh my gosh, they're pressing so heavy, that means I should be doing that. And so it was really this should factor and this comparison factor, even as a coach, because you get the pressure when you are a strength coach to be ridiculously strong, even if your body doesn't like that certain movement. I would say, to be honest with you, actually, now that I'm thinking, at the time, we all thought pistols, and you're amazing at them, but they are not, my body structure is just not designed for pistols. Like, I can do them, they just don't feel good.
Yeah.
And they never have. And so, but I would still program pistols for everybody. And they're just not, most people are not designed for that. I mean, most people, if you don't have the ankle mobility, if you don't have the hip, the knee, and the flexibility, and there's a lot of different factors. So at the time, I didn't realize that. I thought, oh, well, if pistols is one of those things, especially when he started including an Iron Maiden, we all need to start getting good at pistols. Like it's just, and it really can turn people off, because let's be real, we can all get so strong and we never have to do one pistol, right? Yeah. And we can all get so strong and never do a snatch and never do a press. I mean, there's other ways around it. Totally. And so I think the one issue was, for me, is I thought all my students, we all had to do these essential moves. We all had to be able to press. We all had to be able to practice pistols. And that's just not the case. You cannot force that on so many people. And that's what I've learned over, I guess, 23 years. I thought it was 21, but I guess that's what I've learned over the 23 years, is you just really have to go with what that specific person's structure has. Can you improve it? Of course, but it doesn't mean they'll ever be pistol ready. Like, they can do kickstand lunges. There's plenty of other modifications, and that will just turn someone off and injure them if they're trying so hard to make that pattern work. If they're just all tight, it's not gonna work. Yeah. Yeah.
That is a really good point, because I kind of look back at, and it sounds like, you've done the same thing. You look back at what you did back in those days, and you also think about the mindset that you were in when you did it. And so part of it is like, all the strong people are doing it, ergo, in order to get strong, you must do this exact thing. And then it's hard to look outside of that. And I think in some cases for people, it's even harder to do what I found is most beneficial, which is you take, what are the lessons you can gain from learning this? Like, you look at somebody who's like you mentioned, Steve Cotter. He's like the pistol master. Like, nobody's going to outdo this guy. But you look at him and you say, okay, you know what? He spent a lot of time squatting. Basically, a pistol is a type of squat. So maybe the lesson to derive from that is everybody needs to learn how to squat. And
Right.
I don't think I've ever really seen him squat on two legs, to be honest with you, but I would be willing to bet he's really good at it. So it's not like he sucks at squatting on two legs, but is really good on one. Like, you have to be good at that foundational stuff first. And so if you look at the really specific things like exercises like a pistol squat or a snatch or whatever it may be, learn how to generalize it and figure out, what pattern does this fall under, and then start to apply it to your students. Because then it's easy to have everybody in your class doing, maybe one person is doing assisted squats with a TRX, maybe somebody's doing goblet squats, maybe somebody's doing front squats, maybe somebody's doing pistols, but everybody is squatting to some degree. And I have to echo your statement, because for me it was very similar. Like, I had a lot of people who I wanted them to do these cool things, and in some cases it was like, I mean, I remember having a gal come in once who she couldn't even really deadlift without her pelvis being like really tilted. So I told her, like, I just can't teach you, because like, if I have you swing like this, you're going to get jacked up. You need to see a back specialist or a pelvic specialist or something like.
Oh, she was like tilted to the side, like
Absolutely.
scoliosis. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was. I don't think it was. I don't actually know.
One leg longer than the other, probably.
It could be. I don't know what the cause of it was, but for whatever reason, she was just used to letting one leg go higher and the other one not as much. And so
Super normal. Yeah.
yeah. And so the thing is like, in a case like that, you have to refer out. But for everybody else, you can have them do stuff that is within their abilities, and you can work them toward those more, awesome things. But I think you did the right thing by also not trying to force people into, doing stuff like, go heavier, like, don't be a wuss. I think that is damaging for people who, they have desk jobs and they just want to get fit. They're not trying to, do the Iron Maiden or the Beast Tamer or whatever it may be.
Right.
Now, speaking of which, I'm looking in the background there. You got a really great setup. I see you've got obviously a wide array of kettlebells. You've got jump box, a mirror. That's always important. But you also have, I saw the stall bars over off to the side there. So you got a lot of body weight stuff as well.
Oh, yeah.
Now, when you're training people with body weight type of stuff, what are some of the things that you do to combine it with kettlebell training to make it more interesting, more productive, and something that lets people leave and feel like they've really like gained a lot of strength, even within a short, like 1 hour session?
Yeah. So it's funny because there are some sessions where we don't even touch the kettlebell.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks, oh, I'm this kettlebell instructor. I really more these days about body weight and like being able to, I want everyone to be able to pull their own weight, whether it's in a row, whether it's in a pull up. We've got rings and pull up bars galore, suspension trainers. I want everyone to be able to learn how to push their own weight. We do a lot of mobility now. That's why you see we have the stall bars, lots of spine rolls. I mean, so I really do try to create this full balanced, pretty much a full body session. There's no body parts anymore. It's just, let's try to make a balance, push pull. We do definitely, obviously, if we're going to get into like a deadlift day, we'll start breaking out the double kettlebells and whatnot. But I do like to work on a lot of balance, like for example, single leg deadlifts even, and a lot of people don't have that balance and that hinge pattern yet. And so, like you said, in a class, some people will be doing a double 24 single leg deadlift, and some people may just be focusing on really just reaching. And so to be able, because my classes are all levels, just like you said, I'll be having some people do double front squats, while some people are maybe holding on and reaching back just to sit back to something. So I really do try to have almost, and sometimes I'm given like 9 progressions in one class. Like, okay, if you're here, you're going to do this. If you're here, you're going to do this. And like, I sound like a used car salesman because I want every single person to be able to practice that same pattern at their specific level. And that way everyone can get better at their specific personal squat, at their specific hinge. Even, I mean, just like you said, even some people do come in tilted, and then maybe I will have them work on maybe one leg at a time versus forcing this. So we do, but of course I have everyone has to come in for a couple privates before they join a group. So sure. I can be a little more personalized throughout. So I'm not just guessing, right? I need to see what their bodies are like.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah.
Big takeaway here. I like what you pointed out there is that they have to do some privates before they can do the group training, because, a lot of people, private training, you might make a little bit more, let's say just one-on-one. But the thing is that I think it's a better approach to it. You have maybe take 2 or 3 private lessons so that you can figure out what they need specifically. Everybody's got the same body, basically. Everybody's made to push, pull, hinge, squat, all these other different movements. But figuring out where they need to be is a lot easier if you've got a little time to work with them, and then you can put them in a class and you can deal with whatever issues may come up on the fly. And I think a lot of people do the reverse. They just try to get people into group classes and then push them into private coaching. But the reality is, you've got a great community. I've seen a lot of the videos that you put out there, a lot of the pictures you put up, and whether it's, online or in person, people really feel like they're a part of something if they're within a group, and it builds this camaraderie. They don't feel like they're going at it alone. Do you find that this has been one of the most important elements in training for the time that you've had on the Edge Fitness?
Absolutely. The community has been the most special part of this whole thing. Of course, training people one-on-one is absolutely wonderful, and I have such great deep connections with people. But when they get in that group environment, these people, they push each other harder. Not, I wouldn't say past their limit, but they'll work a little harder. And it's not in this competition feel. It's we're together. Let's like, oh, what number are you on? Cool, I'm going to keep up with you. And they, they're going for coffee after, they're going for walks. They're celebrating birthdays together. And that's that in-person just connection. And it's been just so special. I've been running the classes here at my personal home for about 14 years. I've been here for 15, but I've been running them for 14 here at the house. And, these people, it's just been phenomenal. And even more now, just to have that face-to-face. And the other cool part is we even include the Zoom community with our classes as well, because, I have a couple cameras around and we get to see them on screen, or sometimes I'll pull down. I don't know if you see this we'll pull down the actual big screen and do that way. We really are all together. We'll have some people come up to the computer. Hey, good job, Diane. We miss you, but great to see you on the computer. Go back. And just having that, we're just always pumping each other up, making each other laugh. Sometimes it's, sometimes it's real funny, real personal. And the people who show up on Zoom, they get to hear it all. I mean, there's some funny stuff that happens in person that no one will get on video. Let me tell you. And it just makes it kind of fun. You want to have, training could be super serious and like real controlled and like badass and everything. But there's an aspect of fun that needs to happen to keep coming back, because it's work. It's work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Dan John has a really good summary of it. Is basically the training has got to be, if you want it to be successful, there's results, community, and don't make me look stupid. So it's like, people need to feel like, the results are very important. There are places where there's community and don't make me look stupid, and like they still stick around, like even if they're not getting the results. So if you got all 3 of those, like what you've got, you've got people coming in through Zoom, you've got people coming in face to face. That really is the secret to success. Now, obviously, you need to have some acumen with what you do, and you've spent the time doing it. I think the average personal trainer lasts like 18 months, 24 months maybe, and you've been doing it for, significantly longer than that. So you've got the acumen, and I think the really cool thing is that the community is what helps to keep it like self-sustaining. Like people want to keep coming back. They want to kind of like have a friendly competition with the person they show up with in class. And I would bet that you've probably had people who've been coming for years who are, just as avid now as they were when they started.
Yeah. And they keep getting better. And it's amazing to see, like, for example, one of my students, she started with me at 42. She was actually kind of bedridden for her 30s. She has 2 kids, and she couldn't do a pull-up to save her life. So at 42, she started training with me, and about 43, she got her first pull-up. She worked hard for that. She got a pull-up bar at home, because I told her, if you want to get a pull-up, you can't just show up twice a week and expect your pull-up to happen like that. You've got to actually do a little bit of stuff at home. She didn't work hard. She just, gave her a little grease the groove thing, and sure enough, she got her pull-up. And then on her 50th birthday, which just happened about 2 weeks ago, I don't know if you saw it, we did 50 pull-ups together within about a 25-minute time span for her 50th birthday.
Incredible.
And then yeah. So these are the things that people don't understand, that you can walk in, you could have had cancer. I have a lot of people who've had cancer, like horrible stories, crazy car accidents. I've had people start with me. I had one guy start with me when he had pancreatic cancer. He's still alive. It's been 6 years. Incredible. I have just incredible stories of people not being able to, like, bend over and just take out the dishes from their dishwasher without completely not being able to walk for the rest of the week. And now they're swinging 100-pound bells. You know what I mean? And it's crazy. And people are like, how? I'm like, well, you start small, and then you create this foundation, and you really build up your structural integrity with movements that work best for your body, and you build it up and you show up and you don't overdo it. That's the number one thing, is you leave feeling like you could have done more. And that's the hardest thing that's been for me to relay to people, at least in the beginning of my training when I was much younger, to say, hey, you don't need to leave like you have to crawl out of here. I want you to leave. Oh, I want to get my money's worth, man. I didn't get that sore. And like, people get upset. They're like, well, I didn't really get sore. Like, is it doing something? I'm like, just so you know, I mean, I'm just going to use this as an example. Like, I was able to do a 62-pound get up, and I never got sore getting there. So I was just telling them as the example. And I was able to do, a 50-pound extended pull up at one point. Never got sore getting there. So soreness is not always an indication. It's calm. If strength training that's your goal. Of course, if you want to feel sore, trust me, we will do that. And when people ask, be scared, be very scared, because I will give people what they want.
You need to take a Sunday newspaper and just roll it up with like duct tape and just write like the soreness maker on it. So when people complain, you can be like, all right, bend over and you'll get a paddling with this, and you will feel sore. Like if you're worried your glutes aren't sore enough after those swings, you can change that.
Right. Yeah. So it's just educating people to show you don't have to throw your back out to get super strong. You can actually like feel great and then go for a nice long walk and get better results and get leaner and feel amazing in your skin with not having to run a marathon. I had one girl, she used to run marathons. She stopped. She felt like crap. Now she's stronger than she's ever been. She only walks, and she lost 20 pounds, and she's ripped, and she looked amazing. So she's my next feature. These are just normal. It's not like it's normal. I have like a 63-year-old who's, I have an online gym called Lauren's Playground. So we have a couple hundred people in there. They have a community. I'm involved, of course, because it's my gym. Mm-hmm. And she is doing like 6 pull-ups at 63 years old. She got her first pull-up when she joined the playground. She just follows my programs, that they're videos, and she does the video, she does the written program, and she just stuck with it. And she does the same one over and over again, even though there's like 50 others to choose from, because that's her thing. Yeah. And every year she gets another pull-up on there, and she's getting older. 63, 6 pull-ups. Not bad.
It's incredible.
So more, we all have more goals than just pull-ups. Pull-ups is not the world, which, for some of us.
It's quite a bit of the world. I mean, we have to admit that at the very least.
It's something that I personally love, has nothing to do with kettlebells. You can't see my rings, but I love rings now. Like, rings are my thing. But hell, I add a kettlebell to my foot. So no, pull-ups are very important, guys. Let's even if you want to use your feet or bands, however you get there, we get you there. But the point is just lifting and doing it where you're not completely destroying yourself, so you can show up a couple times a week, feel amazing, go and play pickleball with your family. You don't want to be so sore that you can't, go do the things you love. This is to make you like put some armor on you so you can go out and go skiing with your family and like be really good at it, because you have the strength and the endurance from all, the training we did here. This
Absolutely.
Just everything.
I like what you pointed out too about the people think, I'm not getting my money's worth because I'm not sore. It's like, and in a way, a big part of being a trainer is that you've got to like put a new mind and a new heart in people so that they understand that what they were doing before, and that was their whole purpose before. And you ask like, well, did that get you the results that you wanted? I mean, seriously, like if you try it this way, like, look, do this a couple months, and what you're going to find is that you are going to, not only are you not going to get sore, but you're going to get so much stronger. You're going to wonder why you ever bothered making soreness your go-to goal to begin with. But it really is very hard for people to hear, do less and do it better. It's like you're speaking a different language with them.
We really are. And that's what I have to thank the kettlebell and Pablo for, because of the philosophy that he brought. That philosophy has completely changed the game. The kettlebell was just the gateway. It was just the philosophy into the body weight world to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about to you, but it
Same
just
with me.
took me out of let's just look at this muscle by muscle. No, that's not how our body works.
It was very revolutionary for me too, because, I still think that there's a lot of value to bodybuilding training, even after you've taken on more compound lifting, like what we do in the kettlebell world. But I think it has to come in that order, for the most part. I think there are maybe exceptions, but, your body's meant to move in these large movements. And so you should train it to do that. And then it becomes a lot easier when you want to start doing some of the more, what we would call like isolation movements.
Isolation. So,
but I agree. I mean, if it weren't for Pavel, I'm sure we would all still be doing body weight splits and spending an hour and a half in the gym and eating 6 meals a day of chicken breast and white rice and broccoli and no spices or anything like that. Just, completely boring, bland everything. So he really did shake things up. And the only thing that I think is a bummer is he doesn't say comrade anymore, because that was one of my favorites.
he doesn't.
No, he dropped it, I think, kind of when they started strong first. He was, I remember reading there was an announcement. He's like, comrades, this is the last time I will say that or whatever. And then he just never said it anymore. He was like, that's a guy who can do cold turkey. Like he can just I'm not going to say comrade. But it was a lot of fun. It gave it like a little bit of an extra kind of, I don't want to say campy approach, but it gave a fun approach to the important thing that he introduced, which is strength as a skill. And you don't have to crush yourself. You can leave feeling stronger than when you came in. So I agree. And likewise with you, I started with the kettlebells, migrated into bodyweight training, and I still do both of them, I would say in pretty equal measure, along with movement training, because I think that these three things are the things that are the most, not only most accessible, but most successful ways of getting stronger for most people. Like I like the barbell as much as an X guy, but there are a lot of ways you can get jacked up with a barbell.
Totally. No, I love barbell lifting too. Yeah, that's another thing I got into. Barbell lifting's fabulous, but it's not as easy for when you're teaching a group. Let me go ahead and just take it off and put it. I mean, let's be real. I bought some really, really heavy bells. Like I got the 200 pound, you can't see it behind the barbell.
Wow.
And like 100.
I can see it lurking in the background, I think.
Yeah. So I've got a couple of those, and then I've got like 123. And, if you double up, let's, for the most part, for most people, not for, obviously not for you, Alex, you'll need like 400 pounds on the barbell. But for most people, they don't need that to feel strong and, do what they need to do. Mm-hmm. So we do, I'll bring them on the 200 pound bell if we have to, in a group is what I'm saying, or double up to 48s if you need, right? And so it just makes things go more smooth. It takes it makes it more simple and just free flowing. Barbell is not as simple and free flowing.
No, and I also think that, the barbell, with kettlebells too, I think it's a little more intuitive in terms of like, all you have to do if you're going to do like a heavier deadlift is the same way you would do like with a lighter one. Barbell has a little bit different technique that you have to learn, and it's important stuff if you want to actually be successful with lifting the barbell. Whereas with the kettlebell, like, corkscrew technique with the hands or like using a mixed grip, like these aren't things that you really have to consider, So I'm with you. I think that it's sufficient for most.
Yeah, the technique is much more specific, and the risk is a little higher, I think, because it's not as easy to teach barbell deadlifts as it is sumo kettlebell deadlifts.
Exactly.
I had a lot of fun when I went through that barbell lifting certification several years ago, or many years ago now, probably. That was a good time. That was a very good time. Learned a lot. So, but I still love my kettlebells.
No, I'm with you. No matter what I try out, I always come back to the kettlebell. It's because no matter what you're doing, there's always something more to learn. There's always more strength to be gained. And it's just a lot of fun. And, who could say no to that?
You can't. And it's crazy that now it's finally mainstream. Would you say it's mainstream now?
Yeah, I don't see, we talked about how people had no clue where the kettlebell was. I mean,
Yeah.
back when I started, again, it was like the people at the sports store, and then like one or two of my friends knew what a kettlebell was. And now I'll be like, oh, kettlebell this. Oh, yeah, they do that at my gym. And it's like everybody knows what a kettlebell is now,
Right.
12
Yeah.
years, 13 years later, now everybody knows. Yeah, very
That's right.
mainstream.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll travel and I'll go into a hotel and I'm like, oh, they've got kettlebells. All right. It's totally normal now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not the freaks anymore.
We are not weird. I'm just like an old trainer now. No,
Exactly.
I mean, it's great. I'm always getting, new people are finding us more and more because people aren't as afraid anymore. That's the thing. People used to be in fear. People used to be very scared and thought it was only for people in the army. It was only for men.
Yeah.
And I think once I was swinging bells pregnant, people kind of realized, wait, maybe it's not.
Yes. Maybe
And,
it's more accessible.
And did that whole journey of the whole pregnancy thing.
Well, yeah, no kidding. No, maybe, and it's kind of ironic too, by the way, if you think about it, that like what kind of made kettlebells more mainstream was people like Jillian Michaels and I forgot the guy that she worked with, one of the other trainers.
Bob Harper.
Bob Harper, yeah, because it's like, I mean, I can't really speak for Bob, but I can certainly say with like Jillian, I saw a video or two of her doing stuff that we would consider dangerous, in terms of like the technique she used. But because people like really identify with her and they're like, oh, I love Jillian Michaels. So now they see the kettlebell as something that is accessible because they're like, well, Jillian Michaels likes it. Bob Harper likes it. And so it's like ostensibly they're doing the same stuff, maybe even using lighter bells than, a lot of the trainers.
Definitely lighter bells. Definitely lighter bell, like 10-pound bells.
Yes, exactly. But nevertheless, yeah, it's not so scary anymore. So it's great that you can actually meet people where they are and you can get them to use a tool that is going to help them get stronger, fitter, and healthier. And their buy-in is automatic. It's almost like yoga, where it's like people automatically see the value in it if they're interested in it. You don't have to try to sell them on it. They're just like, where do I sign up? When are your classes? And like, that's the most important part. So I think that's pretty cool.
It's phenomenal. And I'm excited every single day. Well, as much as I can be. I teach a lot. And I mean, each personal story is just so special to me. It never gets old to see the transformations in people, not just in their bodies, of course, because this really, really goes all the way to the inside, changes even just their daily life. I mean, people get off medication, but at the same time, it changes their mindset. They're suddenly they feel more confident to actually be able to do things with their family. They used to say, no, I'm not going to go on the hike. I can't do that. Probably fall. Nope, not going to go on the ski trip. I'll stay home. Everything was no's. And this really just brings a lot of yeses to their lives and to many people. And that to me is so special. I mean, it's great if they lose weight. That's cool if that's what they want to do. I'm not really set on, let's do the before picture, I don't just assume that. Back in the day, that's what people wanted. We did before pictures. These days, it's all about body acceptance. So I'm not allowed to do before pic. No, if someone wants me to do one, I do. But, most people who come in, they admit they do want to lose a couple pounds.
Sure.
And I do let them know that as they get stronger, there's this, if you do weigh yourself, which I don't always recommend, the scale very much will stay the same for a little while because you're gaining all this muscle, but the clothes are going to just start changing. And so that's kind of what you want to feel. You want to feel that energy that's happening and the metabolism increasing. You might get a little hungrier. So I kind of go through those things more than let's just focus. I don't have them weigh themselves. That's not what I do. That's not the kind of coach I am.
Definitely. Yeah. I think that the differences in their lifestyle in general and the quality of life is going to be the thing that they're going to look at the most when they look back and they think, what are the things that I improved at? If they lose 10 pounds, but they feel, the same when they came in, or they feel just as weak, that's not going to mean anything. I think you're focusing on a much more meaningful measurement, like how they look, how they feel, the things that they can do. And again, that's one of those things you have to kind of like change people's hearts and minds so that they understand that that is an acceptable thing to look for. That doesn't have to just be a number on a scale, which could be poorly calibrated, by the way. Like there are all sorts of reasons not to just trust a scale only.
A scale's a horrible measure, because if they do gain 1 or 2 pounds, and of course, if it's that time of the month, many women do, hold on to more, or, they ate something salty the day before and suddenly they're having more water weight. It will take them off their focus. It'll take them off their game, and they won't show up. And that's what I saw years ago. But when we make the focus, all right, we're getting that push up. All right, we're going to get you that, we're going to get you being able to do that 35-pound get up, or we make it about that skill, about that exercise, or all you have to do is show up 3 times a week. That is your goal. You have to show up 3 times a week. You committed. I'm going to be waiting for you. Let's do it. So is all your people. So if we just really just focus on getting somewhere, that other stuff that just happens, that byproduct of just showing up, all that happens.
That's right. The gain train is going to roll into the station no matter what. And you got to just show up, be on it, and you'll get to where you're going.
That's
so Lauren,
it.
Where can people find you online if they want to know more about Lauren's Playground, or they want to know more about any of the great DVDs and programs that you have out there? Where's the best place to track you down?
Well, if you're on Instagram, you can just go to @LaurenBrooksFitness. That's easy. And then my actual website is ontheedgefitness.com. So you can find me there. But yeah, if you're on Instagram, shoot me a DM. You can see what's up. Maybe a little more than you want to know, but hey, you know what? I'm kind of an open book these days. I just share, and I'm always coming up with new things. We've got kettlebell rescue. These are just 5-minute workouts coming up in my private membership group, which is called Lauren's Playground. This is a little separate from the gym.
Mm-hmm.
However, that online group does get access to 1 live class a week. So they get to show up on Zoom once a week with people in England, people all over the world, to experience what it's like to have a class as a bonus part of their online membership, which is kind of something fun and new that we added during the time where we needed to do online classes.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and we open up that membership in January of 2022. We'll be opening up that during our 7th squat challenge, 7th annual. It'll be number 7 years now.
Very cool. Very cool. By
Yeah.
that point, you know what? Your hair may be completely different. So you look at, the first
Oh,
squat.
I know. Maybe maybe my curls will come back. I'm hoping. I miss them.
One
all dead
hopes.
now.
You never
Yes.
know.
Maybe
You
I'll
never
get half the nice curls that you had. I'm hoping.
Well, yeah, fingers crossed. I can't make any promises on that. But I didn't even know how they happened for me. So I'll put in a good word with the big guy, and I'll see what he's willing to do, for your hair,
Sounds good.
curls,
Sounds
and all
good.
that other stuff. So ontheedgefitness.com, as well as @Lauren Brooks. Is that Lauren Brooks all one word? Is there any underscore, any dash?
No, it's just Lauren Brooks Fitness.
Lauren Brooks Fitness. Okay.
Lauren
perfect.
Brooks Fitness. Yep.
So, well, thank you so much for coming on the Hammercast. It was a great episode.
My pleasure. I had a lot of fun. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. And folks, as always, have fun and happy training.